Let us talk now of centers and what Gurdjieff means about centers and how we understand centers and the idea of sleep. One of the things that is important in understanding Fourth Way is this concept that one cannot do anything. And that's sort of a mystery because it seems in the Western world, and of course it would seem that we are able to do many things, but Gurdjieff taught that the centers are all not in unity, and that because of this disunity, that we truly are not able to do anything. Now, of course, what does it mean to speak of a center? Ordinarily, in the system or the method, or sometimes called the work, we may distinguish centers as perhaps the intellectual center, the moving center, the emotional center, and the instinctive center. And these are just ways for us to grasp a conceptual idea of the person, of what a person is. If we accept the ordinary, or what Western man considers himself, whether he can do something or not is a question of perhaps desire or of will. But truly, Gurdjieff says we cannot do anything. There are exercises that, as we study, we learn that this is true. You wake up one day, you say, I will do this. The next day, you do something else. Plans are made, and like the old adage about to make God laugh, say that you make a plan, but truly this is what happens. So how is it that we cannot do? It is because we are not able to bring together, say, what we think or desire with what we actually do with our bodies or instruments or something like that. We build one thing and then we tear down another thing. We say one thing this moment and then next we're at another moment. And the idea is that Gurdjieff teaches is that we have many eyes. We are not one unified eye. And that means we are not of unity in centers. And this condition of being in a sort of a fractured, multiple-celled state is what is known as sleep. Gurdjieff says that we are asleep. But how can that be? But in this way, in what we teach, sleep is sort of a spectrum. In other words, we are all familiar with going to sleep, and we know that our consciousness is reduced. But then we wake up in the morning, and we say, well, now I'm awake, and I am who I am. No, there is a spectrum. You are awake, but in sort of a kind of a semi-awakeness. There may be perhaps a higher level of awareness if one's centers were in unity. Intellectual center. Intellectual center, the mentation of your mind, is not the same as what is going on with, say, your instinctive center. There may be no connection at all. You may not be aware of your heart rate or your breathing. What is in unity? Let's take this away from the abstract. If we define that sleep, as Gurdjieff teaches us, that sleep, the spectrum of sleep, that spectrum is a result of the centers, man's centers, not all being in unity. Look at, though, the animals. All right? Let's not even talk about people. Let's talk about the animals. Let's say whether it's an animal that is of original, say a wolf, or through genetics has been bred into something else, say the dog. All right? It doesn't matter. For this, let's say a particular dog, a kind of a dog. If this dog is being in its nature as a dog, doing what a dog would do, or a cat, or any kind of an animal, there is no separation of itself from itself. In other words, its being level, its centers are all in unity. The emotion of an animal, the movement of an animal, its instincts, all together. But man is not that way. Man is able, through his ego, to reflect upon himself, which has led to great strides. I mean, all of civilization is built on this. The ego and the ability of man to pull away from himself rationally. But at what expense? Man knows not what he does, and truly he cannot do. The reason for this is his centers are not in unity. His being level is not as high as the animals. Now, this runs completely counter to the idea in the West of the Christian ideal, where it is considered that man is higher than the animals because it is said he has reason. But reason is of limited value in becoming unified. Reason can stand in the way. I'll give you just a sort of an anecdotal teaching or an attempt to explain this. Let's say you tell somebody, I want to teach you how to swim. And you say, well, I will speak about it to you. I will show you water. I will show you the diagrams of how you will move your arms and your legs. We will study about swimming. We will think about swimming. We will study the books on swimming and so on. And of course, you know where I'm going with this. To what avail? How does one swim? One could study swimming, study all the books in existence of swimming, and if one never went in the water and to what? You do not know what it is. You might think you know what it is. And indeed, the intellectual center would have a great and perhaps elaborate knowledge of swimming. But that is not swimming. What is it that you finally must do to swim? Well, you have to go in the water and you swim. And what is it? What center is it that does this? Is it your mind? No, it is your moving center. It is a part of you that learns this very quickly and is able to do it. You are not able to swim because of your mind or your intellect. So that it is a misnomer to think that the intellect is superior to all things, that to think about things or to calculate through ratiocination or some form of mentation is somehow superior to, say, the center when certain things are to be done by those centers. But in the West, we tend to believe that everything is the mind. Everything comes through the mind. There is a time, indeed, when it is more important to put away books, and simply attempt to do. The animal, however, in unity is able to do, and it does what is according to its nature. Man does not act according to his nature. Man acts according to his will to power or his desire to calculate and achieve something for himself. The whole of politics, the whole of the idea of game theory is all about man calculating what is to his own advantage or the advantage of his group. So then truly, who is higher in being? We would ask you to ponder that it is the animal that is higher in being. It is man that is less than animal, whose being is inferior. His centers are not in unity. Yet look how man has conquered over the earth. He wars. He does everything he can to consume everything in his path, spreading his civilization. And yet, why is that more important or stronger than the unity of the animal? Because man has been able to amplify his strength. He amplifies his moving center through the machine. At first, he cannot till the earth by hand. He harnesses the animal. Oftentimes, his Christian faith in the West tells him, in fact, does tell him, that it is his right to dominate the animal, that the animals are only there for his use. He uses the animal, the horse, or whatever, the plow, the oxen. And then when that was exhausted, his mentation, so that he can calculate machines and build and engineer, so that his power is made greater and greater and greater over the earth. He conquers the animals, dominates the animal. Why? Because of his mentation and his ability to be stronger in his strength. But he is not stronger in his being. He is not more awake than the animal. He is less than the animal. This is so fundamental to our teaching. The idea that one must grasp that man truly cannot do, that man is asleep because his being is less than animal. What does that make man? It makes man less than animal and perhaps less than human. Perhaps man is not human any longer, but in a de-evolved state. It seems that man has reached the apotheosis of civilization because his literature has reached a crescendo, but his actual being is devolving. His cities fall apart. Even his great engineering feats cannot last. I ask you to read Ozymandias. All great things pass. If we cannot do, and the things we do have unintended consequences, if the animals are higher, why is this? I ask you to ponder that. Ponder why the centers in you are not unified. This thing we study, the fourth way of Gurdjieff, Uspensky, sometimes called the system or the method, cannot be taught. I cannot explain it to you in a way that you can obtain it. I can only elucidate what the teaching is. But like swimming, one cannot read In Search of the Miraculous or read any of the works of the great disciples of Gurdjieff, Orage, Bennett, the work on the Enneagram, any of these things. I can only talk to you about them. And perhaps if your magnetic center is strong, perhaps there is a way, and God will lead you toward a way of unity. It would be just as if I said, I will teach you how to swim with a book or by my speaking to you. I cannot do that. I cannot do anything. I cannot evolve a man. Only God can evolve a man. But where is God? The God of the West is absent. But that is not the God I speak of. Our God is nature, Natura, the goddess, the great sun in the sky. I ask you to ponder today why you are not unified, and that no matter what you do, you cannot be unified. And I would hold out to you that the condition of man, Western man, modern man, is one of deep sleep, less than animal, less than the unity of animals, and that his civilization has pulled him away from the unity that is perhaps what full humanness is. Well, that's an attempt. we will leave that for now and talk further. Let us stop now and Lord, give us this day our ability to know the goodness of the gods, the great God's Son, the passage of the earth cleanseth the world. Let us love all the animals, all the creatures,